The following episode of Business Finance Matters is sponsored by Number 8 Business Finance. Number 8 is an independent business firm that works directly with businesses that are needing any form of advice, guidance, and support in their quest to access the many best fit financing options available. If you are a business that is needing to improve cash flow or is wanting to purchase new or used equipment or needs working capital for any reason, i.e. consolidation of existing debt to funding growth or an acquisition, then contact Number 8 Business Finance. All contact details can be found at www.number8bf.com. If you are interested in sponsoring future episodes of Business Finance Matters, all contact details can be found on Spotify. We're back. Business Finance Matters, episode 7. Trevor, how are you?
Unbelievable, Dave. I'm well. Fresh off the back of the Parisian Olympics. Not quite sure what the opening ceremony was all about, but
no idea.
But that's the French for you. God bless them. But did love the actual sport itself. Did you see much of it?
I saw a bit of it. The highlights for me was the French pole vaulter.
Oh yes.
Apparently, he had some problems getting over the bar.
Okay.
A couple of things in the way. I think you could probably guess what those couple of things were.
Moving on.
The women's 4x400 meters, Trev. Oh my God. They were about 200 meters in front before anyone had got off the blocks. So that was quite an exciting and incredible race to watch. The rock climbing grabbed my interest.
Unbelievable. Hey, listen, got 3 little questions for you. Sporting terms. I'm going to give you 3 sporting terms off the bat.
Yep.
Let me give you them all first.
Yeah.
Have a think about it.
Of course.
Then tell me what sports they're from. Okay.
Go.
Here are your 3 sporting terms. Clean and jerk. Number 2, catch a crab. Number 3, not an Olympic sport, but I did like the word chucker. What are your sports there, Dave? Come on.
What was the first one again? Sorry, I was laughing at the intro. Was it
clean and jerk?
Clean and jerk. Okay, I'm going to be serious on this because you know where I could go with this. Clean and jerk, that's definitely the weightlifting.
It is. The clean is to get it onto your shoulders. The jerk is getting it above with your arms and your legs long. Catch a crab.
Catch a crab. Oh, gosh. It's definitely not fishing because there is no Olympic fishing sport. Catch a crab. I know, hockey?
No, it's rowing. So when you bring your oar out of the water, you've got to flick it parallel to the water. If you don't, it's in danger of getting stuck in the water, giving it a braking effect. Therefore, in worst case scenario, you could be exit stage left out the boat.
Got it. Remember that.
And not an Olympic sport, but what is a chucker? CHUKKER.
The only thing that comes straight to my mind is the ice hockey, but there's no ice hockey in the Summer Olympic sports, is there? By the way, just on that, did you know that ice skating was part of the Summer Olympics until 1924?
Mate, dog grooming was part of the Olympic sports in 1900, and half the competitors didn't even know they were taking part in the Olympics. But
that's right.
So, friends, Chucker, you're all screaming out, as I know you know, it's a period of play in a polo match. So I think they play either 2 or 3 chuckers. So there you go. Have you got what else? You got anything else with the Olympics, or is that it?
Did you know that all the medals presented in Paris Olympics contain the Eiffel Tower?
Eiffel Tower. Yeah.
I'm surprised it's still standing, Trev.
Did you know what was in the boxes they were handing out?
It was no, go for it. I did remember. I forgot.
They were apparently pictures or scenes of Paris. The bronze ones were finished in bronze. The silver ones were finished in silver, and the gold ones, Dave?
Tin.
Correct. So what we got today, Dave? I think we've got some exciting stuff coming up.
Yes, we got 2 great guests, and the reason that we do this podcast, we keep reminding everybody, is to introduce our marketplace, and we got 2 individuals on. Mr. Ian Woodley, first of all, who's from a company called Finance Kitchen. A very interesting conversation with Ian, especially with regards to his main customer base, which is the restaurant trade, which I can only begin to guess how difficult that must be at the moment.
We've also got from north of the border our friend and founding guild member, the award-winning Gordon Larson.
Two great guys.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And shall we crack on and bring on our first guest?
Mr. Ian Woodley.
Hi, Ian. I always feel like a bit of a talent show host, where they say, hello, what's your name, where you're from, and what song are you going to sing for us tonight?
Well, I can't really see you as Simon Cowell, to be honest. And I don't think anybody's ever called me talented either. So that's the first.
But thanks for coming on in. Trevor, hello to you as well. We're both pleased that you are able to give us a bit of time, because what we're trying to do with the podcast, as you're probably aware, is give out as much information about our industry and what it does, why we're doing it ultimately, and some background on Finance Kitchen, which is your business. And we'll listen to what you've got to say, and hopefully, Trevor, it'll be entertaining as well.
So, Ian, what do you do in your spare time apart from eat out every night of the week?
I wish I did. I mean, it's a great fallacy in what goes on in Finance Kitchen, because generally restaurants only want to see me when the kitchen's shut, because that's when they've got time to talk, which is no good to me at all, obviously. Yeah, love to cook. A massive music fan. I'm into the genre of Americana, if you know what the hell that's about. Massive sports fan as well, been involved in rugby, football, coaching, chairman, and obviously family, and a newfound puppy, which you're aware of as well, who's currently being trained in the garden at the moment. Right, do you want to know about Finance Kitchen and how it started?
No, not really.
Would that be a good thing? Okay, well, I'm a bit of a foodie, and I fancy myself as a bit of a chef, a bit of a cook. And in my past, when I was more of a generalist in the finance business, I managed to finance a couple of restaurants. One was the Cinnamon Club, which is still around in London, I'm very pleased to say. And one was I financed the refit of the Ivy when it was there originally. And I enjoyed those experiences so much. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the business. I enjoyed sort of working with them. I'd reached a point in 2015 where I was at a bit of a crossroads, and I was intrigued as to how restaurants in general get money. So I met up with one of the guys I'd met through the Cinnamon Club, who went on to get involved in a business called Roast, which you might know at Borough Market, which again was something I got involved in financing. And over the course of a lunch, I'd kind of got the germ of a business idea that there were thousands upon thousands of independent restaurants in the country who, whenever they wanted to open a new site, had no idea where to go. They had no idea where to go to borrow money, and they had no idea where to go to get investment, which is another part of our business, because some of the early stage restaurants are opened through either crowdfunding or sort of Dragon's Den style equity investment. So that was really the start of it. It was a passion for food and drink. As we all know with finance, it's a kind of a means to an end. The generalists amongst us deal with many different sectors. But I was trying to do something where I could try and merge what I'd learned over nearly 40 years in finance with what was a hobby and a passion. And obviously Finance Kitchen was born out of that.
So, Ian, what's your take on what's going on out there in the wide world of UK SME PLCs, and in particular, obviously, in that hospitality sector? What's happened since COVID?
My view is somewhat slanted because we're a sector specialist. That's what we do. And obviously from the COVID perspective, even though for many people that might sound like a long time ago, the repercussions are still there. There was, if you remember back in the day, that restaurants were either closed or either half closed or either open with heavy restrictions, or the Chancellor was actually sponsoring people to actually go out and use them. And you know, you were never more than 3 months for a massive change in direction. So to actually try and run a business through that was all but impossible. It was even worse for us because we rely on new openings. We rely on new restaurants. And quite clearly, while COVID was in the air, nobody was even contemplating opening a new restaurant. So we went through a period of 2 years where we virtually had no money during that period of time. And it took a lot of a lot of soul searching before coming out the other side. We thought, well, are we kind of done here, or do we carry on? It was a really, really tough call. And I think what kept us going was that we love the industry, we love the people, and made so many friends as much as business contacts over the previous period. We wanted to kind of get in and help. Now, regrettably, the hospitality industry hasn't really ever properly recovered from COVID, because the kind of next crisis along was the cost of living crisis. Now, if you're running a restaurant, that means that you've been battling with food inflation of about 30% over the last 2 years. You've been battling against your energy costs going up by multiples of maybe 4. You've been having trouble, particularly after Brexit, getting staff. So to actually put a plate of food on the table that the general public would pay and make a profit is incredibly difficult. So there's many restaurant businesses who are actually quite busy at the moment, but they're busy kind of paddling hard, not making much money. Now, in terms of the relation to lenders, obviously a lot of lenders have always been a little bit concerned about the hospitality industry. They've always been a bit wary. There's been an awful lot of caution where lenders are worried about the sector, because of all that happened. And I guess the role of Finance Kitchen, if we were needed before, we're absolutely needed now, because we give access to funding that the restaurateurs themselves would never find. The clearing banks, unless you're Wagamama or somebody of that size, they're just not interested. They're not interested in supporting smaller businesses. So it's down to guys like us to open up the market, to introduce them to lenders who they wouldn't ordinarily know, and use our expertise in getting new openings and fit outs financed.
How much of your business would you say is connected to the restaurant trade?
Yeah, although we go under a general hospitality banner, it's probably 90% restaurants, I'd say. Pubs are tricky because of the ownership chain. Hotels tend to veer more towards commercial mortgages because there's more of a freehold element. Probably 99% of the business we see are leasehold. So we're talking about, it's a lend, not involving property per se. It's an asset finance lend and a soft asset lend. One of the things we find tricky in our business is that most credit underwriters don't really understand how restaurants operate. I'll give you a great example. If you went to a restaurateur and said, what's the most important thing when you open a new restaurant? They would say location. Because if you're in the wrong place, you won't survive. If you go to a credit underwriter and ask what's important about whether you're going to lend these people the money, location is never even discussed. They'll look back at previous accounts. They'll look at various other indicators as if they were underwriting a more generalist company, and they miss the important bit. They miss, where is this place and why is it going to succeed and why are they going to generate the cash to pay you back? It's because they've invested a lot of money in being in a prime location.
And you sort of take my comment and my observation out of my head. You understand it. You've been in it. You're working it, but it must be tiring sometimes educating some of these lenders, isn't it?
I think it's frustrating, but I think I'm also a pragmatist, because the underwriter I'm talking to, the next thing he's going to see is a horse box. And the thing he's going to see after that is a printing press. The credit underwriters themselves are expected to be experts in everything. And certainly in the longer term, I mean, we've got plans to maybe have our own book, because I think the hospitality sector is a big, big market, and it would sustain a small lender, so we're right for that kind of opportunity, because we could use what we've learnt over the last 10 years and actually put it into practice.
But I think even with all of that frustration, that scratching the head and all the rest of it, as David and I have often said in the past, imagine if that restaurateur, that new owner, that new venture didn't have someone like you. How on earth would they get on?
We are like a translator between two worlds. There's the world of finance and the world of hospitality, and there's very, very, very small overlap between the two. When I go and see a restaurant, the first thing they want to do is tell me how wonderful their menu is, which is clearly of no interest at all to a credit underwriter, unless he obviously intends eating out. It's completely different worlds. And we're in the middle trying to take what's right about a hospitality business and present it in a way that a credit underwriter will understand and buy into. And we have the same going back the other way, because most people who work in the hospitality industry have probably started washing pots and pans when they were 14 and are scared stiff of a form. We've got some very financially literate people in hospitality, but plenty that aren't. So in that regard, they also rely on us in terms of helping them go through the minefield, which is finance.
I often wonder, so I live in a big city, and you do as well, Trevor. And when I walk up and down the high streets, one of the things that is evident is that the restaurants, certainly not between typically Monday and Thursday, have anybody in them. I was saying to someone the other day that the amount of times that we as a family eat out now has reduced. And that's obviously got a lot to do with the cost of living. But as you say, since COVID, there has been a new way in which people perhaps tend to socialize. And I think that's come about by COVID and cost of living, where a lot of socializing is done in-house these days. I'm not sure how the takeaway market is doing, but if you think about how credit underwriters or lenders seem to consider trends these days, would it be right to say that, and you mentioned it earlier, the cost of living, the cost of supply, the cost of putting the lights on, the cost of staff, I mean, everything must be so difficult for anybody that owns a restaurant. And do you see typically that trend, as I'm hearing, is still continuously going in the wrong direction? And do you think that will ever change?
You could argue before COVID, there was also a degree of oversupply. And as happens in many industries, there's a bit of a shakeout and the strong survive. And that will always be the case. People will always eat out. I mean, there's been some interesting distractions. I could bore you with a podcast on the delivery market alone and what that's done and how that's changed. Because, some restaurants are now heavily dependent on 30% of their turnover through Deliveroo or the likes, but they're having to pay 35% of that, their takings Deliveroo, to achieve that. So again, they're running very, very hard to stand still. But I think, we're basically social beings. We will always eat out, and the good and the inventive will survive. And I think what it's also done to restaurants is, because people kind of got into the mode during COVID of not going out, you've got to give people a reason to go out.
And what's your take on the guild? What's your 5 penneth worth on our recently founded modern day guild?
I think it's for businesses like us. I think there's two massive benefits. The first one, and to nick an old kind of trade union slogan, unity is strength. It's that collectivity that we can go and talk as a united front, and we will be taken seriously. I think the other side to it is actually more social. As a good example, this wouldn't have happened without the conversations that were going on. Many now speak to each other when we were operating before in silos. I've made really good friends where, I'll get a random phone call from somebody and saying, how you doing? And either they've had a crap day or I've had a crap day, and actually talking to somebody who kind of gets it, rather than moaning on at the missus or kicking the dog or whatever, to actually talk to somebody else who's suffering the same frustrations that you are is fantastic. I think we can do a hell of a lot of good. And also, don't underestimate the soft skills side either. I just think it's really good for the people that are involved, because running your own business is a fairly lonely track sometimes.
How's the general credit challenges that you're dealing with at the moment?
Okay, the first point I'd make, and I think this point would be relevant to most people who deal in soft assets, is that the market is way, way, way too reliant on directors' guarantees and home equity. It's the first and only thing that lenders focus in on. You could put together an incredibly good business case, which will end up in the bin if the guy's already not sitting on 300 grand worth of equity in their property. And that is just wrong. And again, government, British Business Bank, all the other people who pontificate about providing SME finance, we're almost at a point where if you don't own your own home, you've got no access to finance. The lenders are way too reliant on personal security and personal guarantees.
I know we've got Gordon on later, but us as business professional intermediaries, we have a level of expectation that we need to manage for each and every customer that we engage with. I know that's certainly something that I always start with at the beginning of my conversations. The situations that you must come across must be a much higher level, because you've spoken about new starts, you've spoken about restaurant owners or people that are coming into the industry and they're not homeowners. You've spoken about all the idiosyncrasies that occur in that particular sector. How on earth do you manage that level of expectation when you have that first conversation?
Honesty is the best policy. You end up asking questions very odd in the conversation, like, hello, my name's Ian. How are you doing? What kind of restaurant are you open? That's really interesting. Are you a homeowner? So it's a very unnatural social conversation where you have to kind of drop in things like that to work out, okay, which road's this actually going to go down?
And on that note, folks, despite to the contrary, Woodley does actually sound like he knows what he's talking about.
We did send him a script yesterday. He's been rehearsing it.
No, but seriously, this is the value, isn't it? Clearly, Ian knows the market. He knows his customers. He knows, even before he meets them, he knows the road that he's got to go down with these people. And, what comes across to me is that it's not a one size fit all, but what's come across to me in listening to Ian is the fact that each individual customer situation is unique.
And we are sometimes the voice of reason, where you think, okay, well, I know what you want to do, but you may have to do it a slightly different way, or you may have to do it in stages, or maybe you have to do something first before you get to this point.
Sure.
So we have to coach people through that process.
I don't know about you guys, but I found that thoroughly interesting. And you want to speak to Ian and learn more about what he gets involved with, then obviously get in touch with us and we'll put you directly in touch with the man himself.
Absolutely, Trev. Thank you, Ian, very much for your time and appreciate everything that you're doing for the business community. Good luck to you and to Finance Kitchen.
Yeah, and again, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Mr. Woodley. Okay, folks, we're flying up north of the border, God's own chosen country, where we land in Perthshire. And we're meeting with our good friend and colleague, Gordon Larson from Asset and General Finance. Gordon, hello.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. And whereabouts are you exactly?
I live in a town called Auchterarder, which is a bit more difficult for you English lot to pronounce. So I usually say that I live next door to the Gleneagles Hotel. So.
Oh, now I know the Gleneagles Hotel. In fact, I've been lucky enough to play golf there.
Yes, yeah, I played golf there a few times. It's beautiful, but not my golf game. It's not beautiful, but the setting certainly is.
Excellent. So, Gordon, thank you again for coming on. And your company's called Asset and General Finance, and a recent award winner at the Asset Finance Connect Summer Awards evening. Congratulations. Do you want to just chat us through what Asset and General Finance do and a little bit about yourself and how you won the award?
Well, I think I don't want to show off at how young I am in comparison, but back in 2007, 2008, when the financial crisis happened, I was in university studying finance. So it was quite an interesting time, I suppose, to be studying what was going on in the world. But my background then was in investment banking before I made my way into asset finance, and I worked for a couple of major banks, providing services to hedge funds and investment funds. I moved into asset finance in about 2018. But all the time that I was working in banking, the lifestyle that it gave me was, I felt it was a bit untenable, especially with the arrival of my two young daughters. So moved into asset finance and then ended up being a director at Asset and General.
So I'm a young pup. By comparison, then, Mr. Larson.
By comparison only, yeah.
That's a bit of a change. I mean, okay, this broad church of financial services covers a multitude of sins, but from investment banking to asset finance, let's be honest, is not the traditional what you call pivot change. What brought that about?
My father-in-law at the time actually was an asset finance broker. I was probably quite visibly unhappy in investment banking, doing the job that I was doing, and he gave me an opportunity to make the move, and it made it a lot easier for me to make that transition rather than just starting out on my own with no lenders, with no experience to lean on. So yeah, good just having that bit of support. around me.
I mean, just for my information, I mean, asset and general finance, can you give us a little bit of understanding of what sort of business this is? I mean, is it a general brokerage? Do you specialize in any particular asset? Do you cover any other types of business finance? How many are there in the team, etc.?
Well, there's 6 of us in the team. As a group, we can be seen as a bit of a generalist, but that's because what I'm trying to curate is a community of specialists, which by default become a bit of a generalist. Me personally, I do a lot in the groundwork and tree work industries, but we have brokers who specialise in haulage and only do haulage.
And that's interesting, isn't it? Because it goes back to the point that we were talking to about Ian, about being able to speak to customers and lenders in the same language. Because at the end of the day, we're all flesh and blood. But if you're a haulier, there's a whole world of stuff that you get involved with haulier, with licensing, with tachographs, etc., which you wouldn't necessarily get involved with if you were fitting out a new restaurant. Yeah. And the language is different, isn't it?
So I often say to my clients that, although I've never chipped a branch in my life, I know everything about wood chippers. I know everything that there is to know and more about wood chippers. And if there ever comes a day where I actually get the opportunity to use a wood chipper, then I won't be able to then use my catchphrase. But I can talk away to a tree surgeon for hours about their choice of chipper and what intake size they want, what engine they want. It's a huge world that if you'd said to me 10 years ago that you will at some point know everything there is to know about wood chippers, I think I would have given you a pretty funny look.
You're not a lumberjack at the weekend, are you, Gordon?
No, not at all. I don't have a head for heights.
We know a song about that, Dave.
Can I ask a question just for my own amusement? Have you ever driven down the road and driven past one of the wood chippers that you financed?
I have, actually.
And I say for my own amusement, but when you drive past these wood chippers, do you ever shout out, "I financed that"?
All the time. My partner hates it.
That's what you...
You see, it's not just me. And I drive around and I go past a coach or I've done some wood chippers. I did a lot of work in the electric taxi market in London. I've got the family with me and I go, "See that over there? I financed that."
But do you know what? It's interesting, isn't it? Because these assets, be they salamander grills in a restaurant, be they wood chippers, be they coaches, whatever, they're all revenue generating assets.
I care quite deeply about the industry that we are part of, and I want to see it grow and improve. I want to see younger people come into the industry, which is still improved, but it's
absolutely
still it is lacking. So there's a lot of guys of a certain generation who got made redundant by GE or Lloyd's or whatever 30 years ago and went and started brokerages. And there just isn't that much backfill coming in behind those.
But isn't that what it's about? Passing the baton on, building strength, resilience. But as a sector and as an industry, you're right. But where's the succession? And I do see it in certain places. But I think if we can galvanize ourselves over the coming months and years and get to a stage where we're actually providing one of your favorite words, Dave, pathway for future investment in youngsters, in apprenticeships, in training, etc., then, why the hell not?
I agree. And if you look at myself, for example, I've got a business here with a great customer base and I've got no one to hand it on to just yet. But it'd be good to find somebody or something within our sector that says, well, actually, there's, as you said, Trevor, there's youth coming through. And what better to hand youth business that's been going for many, many years that I could, find someone that can take it forward.
I'm not going to use that acronym for describing gentlemen of a certain age wearing too smaller fitting clothing, but you're a bit of a cyclist, I understand.
Yes, it's become a bit of an obsession now, actually. I was actually racing last night with a bunch of the older fellas in tight-fitting lycra. I've definitely got the bug from a few years ago, and I enjoy a bit of cycling.
This is now tickling my fancy.
Oh, yeah.
Because when COVID came, I invested in a watt bike because as an ex-rugby player, the Watt bike was a really excellent piece of kit for general kind of fitness. But when all the gyms shut down in COVID, I invested in a Watt bike, and I've since upgraded to a Watt bike Atom. And as a result, I've become absolutely addicted to the Swift software program that has been launched for cyclists. I've got a Hurt Cave outside with a bike in it, with a sound system, with fans, with everything. That is that's where I go, and just whatever's going on in my world, I go into that little Hurt Locker down there, get on my Watt bike, hit my Swift program, which is brilliant because it's all linked up to the heart. It's got everything in there. I'm not brave enough to do it on the roads of England for obvious reasons, but it is something that I'm keen to do in terms of going outside as a cyclist as opposed to inside. But I do get the bug. I'm absolutely addicted to it.
So whether it's cycling, like you say, David, they're a worse thing to be addicted to, but that comes out in the way that I run my business as well. It turns out actually I have ADHD, and what I've been describing as an all or nothing personality is actually a disorder. If you can understand it and find a way to focus it in the right direction, then it can be a superpower.
Yeah. This is another podcast, Trev, we can do, because I'm fascinated by this as well. Just for my own, very similar to you, Gordon. I often wonder whether I've got ADHD, but Trevor, I think you think I've got other things wrong with me, but it doesn't matter. And before you said you had ADHD, that is classic sign. The way that you're wired is a good way of putting it. And I'm the same as you. Since a very early age, I've been involved with sport. And when I had a period of time where sport or exercise wasn't part of my life, I struggled. But I do think it's, especially if you've got a young family, especially when you've got the pressures of work, especially in our industry at the moment, there's huge pressures with everything going on at the moment. But to have that outlet, I know you, Trev, you love the old gym, don't you? You're down there every morning. You do the marathons, don't you, and everything like that?
Oh, I'm all over it. I just don't even go there. I'd embarrass the pair of you. But listen, look, is it work hard, play hard? Is that what it is? Is it a release? Is it getting involved in something that's so very different to the day job that helps you perform better at work, for the want of a better way of putting it?
Yeah,
I would.
To a certain extent.
It's mental health, isn't it?
Yeah. So cycling for me, it gives me a lot emotionally, physically, and mentally, and I enjoy it. But I've always described myself as having a very all or nothing personality, and that translates to every element of my life.
Trevor, I think you'll agree that both Gordon and Ian have been valuable to this podcast, and hopefully those listening will understand.
Loved it. As folks will probably gather, we do know the gents quite well, but it's great to have another voice on. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gordon. All the best, and I'm sure we'll see you soon. Take care.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Been a pleasure.
Thanks, Gordon. Good to see you, fella. Take care.
Cheers.
Well, Trev, those were two very interesting and entertaining in parts interviews with two great guys from our industry, Ian and Gordon. For me in particular, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, the restaurant trade, which is where Ian's focusing, can only guess at how difficult that must be. And I like the fact that he says that people still like to go out and eat. Of course they do.
It needs to be an experience. Either quality of food or quality of service or all of the above.
And I think both Gordon and Ian capture some of the challenges that still exist within our industry sector. The small businesses, again, we have to keep focusing on because they are the backbone.
It also underpins my hobby horse, if you like. We keep talking about it. The guild is mixed up of individuals. Let's remember, it's individuals. They're all obviously running their own firms and businesses, but it's the individuals that they're members, but they are specialists that collectively, we've got members who are specialists in all sorts of areas. These guys speak the language of their customers or their potential customers. They understand the challenges.
I like Ian's words, he said they're like a translator. It's a very, very good way of explaining what they do. They are translating what the business requires to the lender or the underwriter.
Yes.
And that is a really great way of explaining exactly what the business finance professionals do. We are engaged with the business. We understand the business. We understand what it is they're trying to do. And as Ian said, the underwriters are probably looking at coaches 1 minute, a horse box the next minute, and then in comes a restaurant. And to try and put that language together so that the underwriter gets it is absolutely vital for every business owner. Hence why we're all here. We're all trying to get that signpost up. We're all trying to make sure that small businesses know where to go when they need that person, like the Ians, like the Gordons, like all the members of the guild that want to have someone just to talk to, just to understand what they do. And then it's our job to package that and put it across to the credit team and say, look, here it is. This is what it's all about. Do you understand? And if they don't understand, then fine. We'll make sure that they do. So they've got all they need to make sure they make the right credit decision, which is, again, not always easy.
Absolutely, Bob on. Absolutely. Hey, listen, something tangential to this. You're going to tell the folks about our pending roadshow.
Yes, I can. I mean, it's still
in the planning stage.
It's in the planning stage, but we have been approached by a business innovation group that absolutely love what we as business finance professionals do. They're desperate to make sure that within their package that they offer to business owners, that there is a clear pathway to gaining access to finance, and they cannot think of a better platform to work with than the Guild. So we'll keep everyone updated on that. But essentially what it will be is that business owners will come into our clinic, for want of a better word, and we will listen to them, and hopefully, based on the information that we're given, we'll be able to tell them exactly how we go about things, how we gain access to finance, and if needs be, Trevor, we can then introduce them to the many members of the Guild who have, as we said a minute ago, like Ian and Gordon, who are specialists in certain sectors. And I think that's gold dust for a lot of businesses that are out there. And also, Trevor, we've got some other good news. Is we've got a sponsor who's approached us who will be sponsoring our next episode. And again, I can't stress how important it is to get some kind of sponsorship. Just on a tangential bit of information, Number 8 Business Finance were sponsors of the England Deaf rugby team who toured out in South Africa recently. So I was very pleased to be a part of that. And I could see that our sponsorship was able to cover some, of course not all, but some of the costs to get these players out there to play rugby. And I can't stress again, sponsorship for us is helpful. And if anyone out there would like to be sponsors of the podcast, do contact us. We do have an email address, don't we, Trevor?
We do. It's a bit of a mouthful, folks, but it does work, and we do monitor it. And you ready? I'm going to just take a deep breath. It is Business Finance Matters Podcast at gmail.com. Business Finance Matters Podcast at gmail.com. You're not going to forget that, are you? It's going to take you half an hour to write it out, but you're not going to forget it.
Well, we've recorded it now, so hopefully they know how to play back. Also, there are other ways of messaging us. How much feedback have we got following the last?
We got quite a lot. Bernie Fox is a regular listener. Dear old Bernie up there in the home counties. Adrian Langford was from Rivermore Asset Finance down there in Hampshire. He loves it. He put it on some platform saying how much he looks forward to these episodes. So there you go, Adrian. Little shout out for you. But you know what? We've still got no one in South America, mate. What the hell is going on down there? Well, in every other continent.
Here we go. A bit of a South American fact for you.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that the northern tip of Brazil is closer to Canada than the southern tip of Brazil?
Yeah, but that's obvious. Well, the southern tip of Brazil is closer to what?
I don't know. The fact is that I'm trying to get ourselves into South America here, Trev. So I'm bringing out some South American facts.
Mate, that's like saying Aberdeen's closer to the North Pole than Southampton.
Anyway, it's a South American fact. So South America, take this on board, download our podcast. All right, so we're never going to speak to you again. Look, looking forward to the next episode, Trevor, which will come out around, the little filler will probably come out around beginning of September.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
That's a wrap.
Good to see the boys. Hope you enjoyed that. Dave's already done it. You know how to get hold of us.
Great, Trev. Look, take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of August. Got anything planned? Anything coming up? Anything exciting?
No. Next.
Good.
You? Where are you at the moment? You're not in the UK at the moment.
No, I'm recording from the outdoor garden table out in Portugal. If you can hear any splashing in the pool, that's not me. But it's a nice backdrop as we record this particular episode. The weather's great. bit too hot, but I'm not moaning. I hear it's been a bit hot over there, isn't it, Trevor?
Yeah, from about it was about 10:30. It kicked off on Monday and finished about 8:00 in the evening. I mean, we were sweating in our pits for about 5 or 6 hours. We thought, here we go. We were all rubbing our hands, but no, everyone's everyone's gone back into hibernation, mate.
I know. I mustn't grumble.
Well, no one would take any notice if you did.
Otherwise, mate, no, nothing much else. Just finishing off the holiday here, getting back next week. Got lots on the business front that we're working on, which is great. And apart from that, nothing much more to report. So I will let you go, and I wish you a good August. Take care of yourself. Goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him. See you, folks.
Bye.